Happy Halloween! This video is about The Haunting. To get into it immediately, this is one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. It came out in 1999, and it's based on the 1959 Shirley Jackson novel, The Haunting of Hill House. It's a pretty standard ghost story, and it's considered a horror classic. There's been a number of adaptations, but if you're familiar with any of them, it's probably with the 2018 Netflix miniseries of the same name. That show was really popular and critically acclaimed, but I haven't seen it. Until recently, I hadn't seen The Haunting either, but I have been obsessed with it for a number of years. We'll get into that in a bit. The Haunting isn't funny in the way So Bad They're Good movies usually are. The writing's not horrible, the camera's usually in focus, the acting's fine, it's suitable. The movie overall is just kind of mediocre, and that would make it forgettable more than funny bad, but this movie fails in really unique and interesting ways that I really want to talk about. Also, I lied, this is a very belated Halloween video, but I had to talk about this movie. There's a lot of ways you could approach this movie. I knew I wanted to talk about it, but I wasn't entirely sure what angle I would take. It's full of poorly delivered lines and odd directing, which would make it prime material for compilations and would certainly have a field day with it. Do I scour over the entire movie? Do I watch every adaptation of the property and make a comprehensive 4-hour deep dive? No, I just want to talk about one scene. This scene is the reason I've loved this movie for years despite having never watched it. I've watched this scene dozens of times. I don't even remember who showed it to me or where I found it originally, but it's so funny. I am going to go into detail later about the context the rest of the movie brings to this scene, but by itself, it's still the best part of the movie. Oh, I realize I still haven't given a plot synopsis. I'm just kidding, I wrote that in the script. I didn't get any context, neither do you. It doesn't matter, it's about ghosts, just watch. Hopefully you see at least some of what I find so interesting here. There's a lot of silly little moments that I like this line, "Son of a bitch!" The camera pan up to the spooky painting, the fireplace literally having an evil-looking face, this line,
"Oh my god, Luke, get out now! Luke!"
Owen Wilson dying, this line,
"Hide? What does he think this is, a game?"
The painting falling, the CG bird statue. These moments are great. I love that Owen Wilson looks like a Scooby-Doo character, I love that the fireplace has an evil face, but it's not what makes the movie special. It's so stilted and awkward, it's not filmed like a horror movie. The shots are too far away and the cuts are way too far apart. There are other ways to create tension in a movie besides claustrophobic camera angles and quick cuts, but at the risk of sounding reductive, this is just not how you make a scary movie. Because the cuts are way too long, it seems like Owen Wilson had ample time to get out of the way, which removes any sense of surprise that his death could have had. Assuming you cared about this character. After watching the whole movie, I still didn't. Speaking of, when I realized I wanted to make a video about this scene, I knew I would have to go watch the full movie eventually because it wouldn't be fair for me to criticize the movie without having seen the whole thing. You know, maybe these scenes actually do make sense in context or something. Clearly this scene is built up and it's less funny in the context of the movie. But no, it's not. I mean, they kind of set it up, but it's still really funny. This is the first death in the whole movie, and it's the only death in the movie. Unless, I guess, if you count the protagonist getting sucked into the spirit world at the end. I guess I have to actually explain the plot, so let me do that briefly. In the present day, Liam Neeson invites Owen Wilson, Lily Taylor, and Catherine Zeta-Jones to a spooky house called Hill House under the guise of a study on insomnia, but it's really a study on the psychological response to fear. He doesn't think the house is haunted, he just knows a bunch of bad shit happened in there and he wants to spook them with it. In the 19th century, the owner of the house, Hugh Crane, kidnapped and murdered a bunch of children because he couldn't have kids, I guess. Over time, Lily Taylor discovers the story and thinks the house is haunted. Everyone thinks she's crazy, but the house is haunted and kills Owen Wilson. And Lily Taylor realizes she's the great-granddaughter of Carolyn Crane, Hugh's wife, somehow, and that the children are trying to move on to the next life but are trapped as ghosts because Hugh Crane's ghost is keeping them in the house because all they ever wanted was kids and that's why he murdered them. Lily Taylor dies by trapping Hugh Crane's ghost in a door, and there's some Jesus symbolism, I guess. I neglected to mention it earlier, but her mom recently died and her sister's really mean and now she's with the kid ghosts and I guess her mom in heaven or something. The thematic arc, I think, is that Lily Taylor's finally with a family that cares about her and the other two remaining characters leave the house. That's it. The plot truly is unimportant. It's pretty simple, and since it was based on such a formative book, it makes sense that it's so straightforward. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but the way the movie handles it is really bad. I don't know if the book handles it better, but I haven't read the book. I can't read. In watching the full movie, though, the problems present in the magic carpet ride of death scene are present in the rest of the film. And they kind of make more sense. There's still a lot of poor decisions here, and the movie's not good, but like, I get what they're going for at least. It's not just this scene that's slow-paced and filmed in wide shots. It's the whole movie. It's a horror movie where the things happening to the characters are scary to the characters, but not to the audience. In one scene, it's bad filmmaking. But across the whole movie, it almost feels deliberate. There's a film called Ambiance by Swedish director Anders Wiberg that is 720 hours, or exactly 30 days long. It is the second longest movie ever made after a movie called Logistics, which is just the entire process of a pedometer being made over the course of 35 days. I think it's awesome that this movie exists, mostly because I just think it's pretentious and absurd, but a part of me actually admires it. Would I ever actually watch it? Absolutely not. It is probably boring as hell. But even if I wanted to, I couldn't watch it for a few reasons. For one, if I tried to stay up during the premiere, because this film was going to be premiered over the course of 30 days, presumably just the whole time. If I try to stay up and watch it, the whole time, I would die. And after this premiere, the only copy of the film was going to be destroyed by the director himself. Sometimes I like novelty for the sake of novelty. It's better when novelty is backed up with substance, but I don't know, the fact that people actually had the patience to make this movie, and just the core premise, the core conceit being so funny, I think it's great. It's probably terrible beyond the fact that the premise is terrible and the length is disrespectful to people's mortality. And it's a caricature of performance art. It's what I imagine people who hate experimental art think all experimental art is. But I think it's awesome someone made this movie, and my life is better for knowing about it. Anyway, that's what The Haunting is. It's novelty for novelty's sake. It's a horror movie where the movie isn't scary. The way it's shot, the way it's structured, the way it's written. The characters are scared, but it's just made in a way where it's completely mundane for anyone actually watching it. I don't think most people would think it's a good idea, and I don't even think it's a good idea. I just find it amusing. Why do people watch horror movies? Do they like being scared? Do they like the tropes and the stories the genre tells? There's no one right way to make a horror movie, and scary is subjective. But whatever the reason you watch horror movies or the metric in which you rate them, The Haunting fails on every level. Stories are weird in that when they're fictionalized, we're often less likely to believe the things that happen in them. In real life, weird things happen all the time, silly things happen all the time. In a movie, for example, if a character cartoonishly slipped on a banana and died or was seriously injured, it would be hard not to film that as funny. You could do that, you could frame it in a serious way, but it would be harder. But in real life, if you saw the same thing, you would be a lot more disturbed. You also may have been scared of the dark as a kid, but the feeling of turning off your lights and running to bed doesn't immediately translate to the screen without your childlike lens and internal monologue. Clever camera usage and tight editing could make a scene like that work, but you have to put the work in. So this is where The Haunting fails. Its filmmaking is generally unremarkable, but in its attempts to be scary, it comes off so incompetent because nothing happening on screen is inherently scary, and there's nothing behind the camera to back it up. Owen Wilson's character, okay, his name is Luke, I'm just gonna call him Luke. Luke dying should not be funny. It should be sad, shocking, scary, anything. But it's not. It's hilarious. To get back to the scene, let's break down why it doesn't work and how it's a microcosm of the whole movie. So, there's two moments that set this scene up. One, the lion head thing almost kills someone in an earlier scene. It's a part of the chimney, and it seems to move back and forth on a pendulum. The mechanics of it aren't exactly clear to me, maybe it makes sense to other people, but it doesn't matter anyway because it's haunted by ghosts. Then there's the scene where Lily Taylor, Eleanor, discovers bodies under the fireplace. These are the bones and the ashes of Hugh Crane's kids. So, again, after getting up, Luke stands for a really long time, and it really feels like he's just awaiting his death. Being less harsh, we could say maybe he was in shock, maybe he forgot how dangerous the fireplace was. Or maybe how long he was standing there just isn't properly communicated by the film, but that's a problem in and of itself. And then the pivotal moment where he dies. It's also so slow. There's no music, and the sound effects are just so weird, and the cut to the other characters' reactions is embarrassing. Also, what even happens here? A statue moving fairly slowly tears his head clean off? Like, what? And then it drops his head towards the other characters, even though it seemed like that wasn't the direction it was moving? Then this trap door opens up and starts spewing out bones, and only Eleanor knows what's going on here. This moment encapsulates the problems perfectly to me. Sure, it may be scary, probably downright traumatizing for the characters, but for the audience, it's just so silly. The rest of the scene is less remarkable. More bad acting and directing, but the important thing is the camera. It's awful. It's so far out, and combined with the editing, creates zero sense of tension. As the audience, we're disconnected from the events, especially when Eleanor starts beating the CG bird with a pole. The CG's not bad for the time. This movie actually had a pretty big budget considering everything, but conceptually it's awful. I'm gonna come clean. I don't actually think this movie was supposed to be some weird experiment. I think it was supposed to be a scary movie, and I think it failed at that. I've neglected to mention it until now, but the director of this movie is Jan de Bont. He directed films such as Speed and Twister, and he was the cinematographer for movies such as Die Hard and The Hunt for Red October. It's clear he's not an incompetent filmmaker, and all of the other cast and crew, as far as I know, have done great stuff. It's just that horror is not the genre these people were used to making. This movie is made like an adventure movie. It's got the narrative arc of a very light film, and a lot of the set pieces are shot like an action movie. Of course, it's not good if you view it from this lens either. The characters aren't interesting, the pacing is boring, and there's just nothing compelling from a narrative or thematic standpoint. The one place this movie kinda shines is its sets. A lot of it was made for this movie, and it looks amazing, unironically. The production design is fantastic. I especially like this weird room that's filled with water and has books creating a pathway through it. It shows up twice. No one mentions it explicitly, I guess because the house has a bunch of secrets and weird rooms, but I love it. Like, why is it there? I don't know, but it's great. So that's The Haunting. It's a pretty boring movie, and I don't think it's necessary to watch. There's scattered moments of unintentional comedy, but overall it's just kind of uninteresting. But the problems with it are still really unique, I think, and I still really like watching Owen Wilson get his head cut off. I'm sorry, Luke, you deserve better. It's a weird little relic of filmmaking and a great example of how not to shoot a horror movie. I hope after watching this video, you maybe understand my obsession with this movie, or at least this scene a little bit, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.